challenging as it is. The actual work of politicians to reconcile perspectives and reach real agreement is both impossible and necessary. So there we go, right? So why a town should not operate in isolation, why we need to be regionally and internally involved with each other, which brings us to the third issue I wanted to talk about, which is bringing it home: local conduct, transparency, and inclusion. I would like to talk about my expectations for good governance, where I believe we've fallen short in the last few years in determining priorities, in respecting staff's professional implementation of policy, and encouraging participation and input. I firmly believe that a majority of the residents I firmly believe that the majority of residents agree with the clearly stated goals articulated over and over again through our strategic plan, through more recently the Vision Fountain Hills, and many, many years of surveys and town halls. They value our natural environment and our views, our great schools, our safe neighborhoods, and small town charm. The message at the first assembly that I attended in 1984 is the same 30 years later. They want to move in the direction that's resident-centric, committed to the people who chose to live here, and to preserving, as I said, this unique community. Inherent in that, though, is prioritizing our energy and funding towards protecting our assets and offering public service with adequate staffing. The current mayor and some council, including my likely opponent Cecil Yates, are inclined to chase shiny objects with no hope of succeeding or maturely solving problems. One example, which ties also into not only prioritizing but respecting staff, concerns pavement management and the swimming lagoon at the fountain. In December of 2016, this mayor and some council voted down a street study that staff had brought forward to them. And this is after staff was directed to come forward with a road plan that would provide technical solutions, replacement costs for some of the roads that need actual replacement, and long-term maintenance schedules. And this would have cost around $70,000. Forward a little bit to June the same year, June of 2017. At the recommendation of an obscure self-appointed committee with the mayor and Councilman Tolis and Yates as members, at a meeting that was to be a work study session, no voting allowed, at a meeting where there was no public agenda available, where the public had no backup material or knowledge of what was going to happen, and basically by virtue of conversation and kind of nodding, the majority at that meeting decided to spend that $40,000 for the feasibility study on this, I guess I would say, obviously problematic lagoon. Similarly, that same June, the council was poised to approve a $30,000 annual payment to supplement the chamber's rent to Park Place. Park Place, the four-story mixed-use apartments on Avenue of the Fountains. The developer apparently put pressure on the chamber to commit to a larger space, even though the project wasn't anywhere near ready. And the chamber, as you probably know, owned their own building. So this created, in June, a false urgency on council to decide on putting a visitor center there. Is the town supposed to be guaranteeing rental income to developers with the terms undefined like that in the heat of the summer yet? Despite Councilman Yates' assertion that this, what he quoted as concierge service, which was a steal, cooler heads prevailed. That decision was postponed, and then ultimately, this visitor center exists free of taxpayer dollars. More than a year later, they finally did approve the road study at a slightly higher price than what they would have paid the year before. And more importantly, really, is that it's too late. It was too late to have the full story, the information that we would have had in time with this property tax now. It would have been very specific and really very obvious where the money needed to go. So a little bit of aside, despite of how, what I might be saying right now, I fully support as a separate and necessary that property tax. I really believe it's necessary for the sustainability of our community. And if I should be citizen commission. We have a lot of commissions here in town that guide the council, and we could have a citizen oversight commission should this property tax pass. Just go a little bit more into some staff relations. At budget time, staff comes forward and asks for funding requests for their departments. Last year, they asked for 10 various additional positions, 8 of which were denied, despite their and the town manager's recommendations. Except, not only did the council agree to fund a contract for economic development for over $50,000 a year, as opposed to, say, the needed procurement officer or help for the town clerk, but quite amazingly seemed ready to approve an additional unrequested full-time employee for economic development. Now, nothing against economic development, of course, and nothing against the consultant that they ultimately hired, but they were doing what they were told. But the presentation at the last council meeting described only retail pursuits. That's it. And again, go back to the strategic plan, Vision Fountain Hills. We had much broader approved goals. We voted on them as a council. Technology, healthcare, health research, and most importantly, education. Education is a driver of economic development, and education can help us go toward that goal that a lot of people appear to like, which would be a multi-generational balance here in town as we see the changes happening. And I think obviously that retail and other businesses would benefit by a larger full-time population, which these pursuits would bring. So again, I think we have a little bit of a misplaced priority, putting our energies and our actual resources into places that I don't think will benefit us in the long run. The most significant example of unprofessional, disrespectful behavior towards staff was the inexcusably uncivil and shocking firing of our 15-year town attorney. And this effort was led by Cecil Yates, right in the midst of Park Place suing the town, suing us, suing the community. The purported reason for this firing was, as the project's finance company requested, at their request, the town attorney was facilitating plans for a meeting so the town could meet with them and collect the over $400,000 that the developer owed the town for many, many months. This was why they fired Andrew. This is why they fired the town attorney. This has not only left us with so many questions about the mayor and some council's conflicts of interest, but as of the last meeting, an extra $160,000, a bill that we need to pay between now and June for the interim attorney, and with no hope of getting the kind of legal service that we were getting at anywhere near the cost that we were getting it. This change has left us legally vulnerable. We had a serious open meeting law violation, I won't say violation, but a breach a couple of weeks ago with an unannounced full council discussion about school safety after that shooting, that horrible shooting. And another lesser breach last week. I'm not blaming the interim attorney, but you can't talk about something like school security at a meeting that it wasn't on the agenda and it wasn't just a report, and then they all gave opinions for 20 minutes. Council only directly hires the town attorney and also the judge and the prosecutor and the town manager. They could have discussed the attorney's position in private or, in a closed session, anything like that. He was never given that opportunity. Parting ways, they don't have a contract. Parting ways was always within the town's prerogative. They had no reason, they don't need to have cause, they can just say that's that. But they instead publicly blindsided him. This can be improved. Oh, I wanted to mention one other thing, and I'm not going to I just want to mention what town manager Grady did say at the council retreat. They had a retreat that where they were going to be discussing their future legal service. And he said, quote, "This switch over really cost us." And I would add to that, indeed, not in only dollars. This can be improved. It has been good in the past. Mike knows that, and there are solutions. Mayors and councils should not surprise staff to try to make points or at their expense. They will retreat, staff will retreat. It's not conducive to team building and progress, and it hurts the community as a whole. Better relationships are not only expected with staff, but with other entities, like those I mentioned earlier, the school district, the sanitary district, Fort McDowell, also Cox and EPCOR and SRP. Negative remarks, finger pointing, that kind of thing, lack of regular meetings, not only between the elected officials, but with staff. They just recently picked those up, but they haven't done them for years, and that has caused a deterioration of the true partnerships that did exist in the past. I know it. I'm on the school board, I met with the town, and when I was on the council, we met with the school board. Very important. Other things that people are talking about in town, the water tower, the tank, the water bills, bright lights around the fountain, lake water quality, cable connection in our homes, the lack of fountain nose representation with the SRP board, and state, county, and regional issues can all be better resolved with good faith communication and strong leadership. People want a mayor and council to also treat they themselves as citizens with respect, not whispering, writing notes during public comment at meetings, and being unresponsive to calls and emails. They want a mayor and council to set policy, then support the town manager and the staff to implement them fairly. All fees need to be assessed and collected equally. No mayor or councilman should be considered an ally to an opposing entity or attorney, but instead should be an unwavering defender of the community. We are the community. Volunteer commissioners should be appreciated, not used for ideological gain or resume building. Appointment to valley boards and councils also should not be used for political posturing. Mayor and council should be enough of a team, grown up enough, to be able to communicate freely with each other, sharing ideas in spite of maybe some past differences or disagreements. It's necessary. We have to do this for the good of the community. In summary, I'd just like to go back to my 3 things. Opinions will vary about how little or how much government should do for a community. The legal framework was put into place by the state of Arizona to form municipalities with the thought of at least keeping us safe, keeping us together in a common geographical area with access to shelter and mobility and services, the opportunity to create laws that reflect the pursuit of happiness for most residents, and in the case of disagreement, a platform for discussion and resolution. Those with the privilege of forming policies, elected leaders, should seek out and listen not only to their professional staff, but citizens, other entities, businesses whose lives are affected by their decisions every day. And they need to do it openly and without self-interest. You know, some on our council really have these qualities, and I'm just hopeful enough to believe that it's possible for all of us as we move forward. In that spirit, I would love to hear your comments, your questions, and your input, and I really appreciate you coming. Thank you. Jim has we didn't have a microphone last time.